Today is oil change day, but we're also installing the Trifecta kit from A1 and M3. Let's get started. So here's the fitting we're going to be removing so we can install the fitting for the oil feed line for the pressure gauge. There it is. And when you wrap this, you want to make sure you don't get any in there, and use just the amount needed. This is a 5/8 by the way. This is the feed hose. Before we get anything tight, we're going to install the gauge. We're just going to put this on here. I have to get this straight up so it doesn't interfere with the frame and bind the threads. You want to make sure it goes on there straight. There's that. Still. Now these two bolts here got to come out. Just a little bit of cleaner on the rag. Now for the best piece. This is gorgeous. Look at this. Look how well that matches. So this will sit right up here. So the kit does include the fitting that you need up there. It also includes the bolts that you're going to need for here. Double check, make sure they're the right thread. They are. Okay. So these are going to sit down in here. See how tight that is? So the size you're going to need is a 3/16 Allen wrench. Now the reason to install a gauge like this is because after 2016 Harley took away the actual pressure reading and just put OK if the oil pressure was good. Some of us prefer to know the actual pressure. So now that we got our routing where we like it, they include this piece of heat shrink. That's a 3-to-1 heat shrink. So we're going to slip this over here. We're going to position it in between here so we don't scratch the tubes. Doing this with it on the bike so I can make sure I get it in the right spot where I like it. So this straightened up where we want it, just like that. That's where that's going to sit. So now we can remove this again. We're just going to take a small zip tie so we can make a mark so we know where we want it to end or start. And we'll cut that off afterwards. If you've never used a heat gun before, be careful. You don't want to heat it up too much. Alright, so once we got it evenly heated, took these little creases in here that were out. Now we'll let that sit and cool for a little bit. We'll cut this zip tie off. Okay, so this one here is going to be a 9/16. This one's going to be a 7/16. I want to make sure that I got my hose where I want it. It is going to want to turn a little bit. Okay, that's good and tight. And afterwards we'll check it for leaks anyway. So now we're going to tighten this one up. This one is a 5/8. That's what we use to put that fitting in. So because I was having an issue with the oil pressure sensor light, we're going to put a new one of these in at the same time. This does get sealed by an O-ring. I just put a drop of assembly lube on there to lube the O-ring. This is a 24 millimeter. I don't know if my wrench is gonna fit. It hit the block before. Good. All right. That's good and tight. We'll get this plugged back in. Make sure we're lining up the fitting. Back together. So now that beautiful thing is installed, we're going to move on to the next part of the trifecta. Alright, so the next step in the trifecta kit, let's get this out of here. We can put in the push rod. Come on, baby. There we go. Alright, so there's that. Try to get a straight one, not a 90-degree one. It'll help you get it out easier. Pull this out. And that's where the push rod rides. And pull it right out. There's the factory push rod. Notice the amount of oil on it from transferring. Alright, so notice the difference in diameter of the push rod. Both ends are identical. This is where it rides right here. So just slip it in. Make sure it's seated. Put this in, lining up the notches. Okay. Now we'll get this back in. Alright. Now, perfect. Good to go. Alright, so next is the ventilator. Here's the oil cap. Right now I've only put 4 quarts in it so far. So we take this, run it up here, tuck it up here, run it between the head and the frame, stick it on. It's that simple. And it keeps it up in here out of the way.